Welcome to this special video today for Fratello. I'm Robert-Jan Broer, founder of Fratello and editor-in-chief. And today I'm talking to Matthias Breschan, CEO of Rado. Welcome, Mr. Breschan, or Matthias. And happy to have you here in this video. And perhaps you can introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, many thanks for this invitation. So my name, like you said, Matthias Breschan. I'm now with the Swatch Group for exactly 20 years. At the beginning, Swatch, then Hamilton, and now at Rado. And I still have a lot of pleasure to work in the watch industry.
Very nice. And for this anniversary, will you get like a nice special gold watch from Swatch Group, or is that with 25?
It's not anymore a gold watch, but yes, they always have a very nice gift, but it's a surprise.
Oh, very good. Well, today we'll talk a bit about the Captain Cook and the Golden Horse. And Rado is very well known for its pioneering spirit in ceramics. I also remember from my youth when seeing Rado watches, it was always the black ceramic watches that I saw on the wrists of friends of my parents and so on. So that's what reminds me most of Rado, but that's slowly changing, it seems. And with the Captain Cook and Golden Horse, these are watches from the past. But are you also targeting a different type of consumer than the ceramic Rados from, well, they are still there today, but it seems to be a different customer than a few years ago?
Yes, you're right. For many, many years, this black shiny square ceramic watches was a very unique face that differentiated Rado from all the watches that are in market, and very recognizable. When you went to a restaurant, you could see from far away who is wearing a Rado watch. And they were really unique, and our loyal customers, they would never buy anything else than these square, shiny black ceramic watches. However, about, I would say, 10, 15 years ago, we were still continuing to sell these watches extremely well to our loyal customers, but we didn't, I would say, we're not able with these watches to attract the younger clientele because they consider this watch as the watch of their parents or grandparents, and the young people always want to have something different. So we were actually thinking now, how can we attract these younger people for our watches? And we were looking back in the history, and we found out that the first collection that Rado brought out in 1957 was basically with the iconic watch Golden Horse, 62 with the original and the Captain Cook. So the classic segmentation of classic watches, sport watches, and lifestyle watches. But Rado could never do round watches with the technologies in the 80s and 90s, other than black, shiny, and square watches. These new technologies, this monoblock construction, and the fact that we were able to develop different ceramic colors really helped us to develop models that helped us to attract a younger clientele, like the True Thin Line, where we developed in this color theory of the Corbusier 9 different colors. And of course, the watch was only 5 millimeters thick, that by the technologies that we were using in the 80s, 90s was impossible. This is now why we also look back to the past. What were our iconic watches from the past? Because of course, vintage pieces, they are very, I would say, trendy today. But I believe that vintage pieces, they are not only trendy today, but they very much are in line with the values of Swiss watches in general, because it's all about making timeless timepieces. Yeah. So they're very interesting actually to bring them back in a replica shape, in a replica way, but I think also in a contemporary interpretation. Yeah. And this is exactly what we try to do. And then we try to combine it with different technologies, with different materials. And then I think it's really something that is extremely attractive today, but definitely for the coming years also.
Yeah. And what would you say if you're developing these vintage inspired watches or replicas, as you say, what's the most important or what is important in terms of design? What type of elements do you want to include in these watches, and how do you market them properly?
Well, I think first of all, they really need to be. You need to have a replica model. When we, for example, were looking into the Captain Cook or the Golden Horse, they are very complex constructions. I mean, think about the Captain Cook with this concave base, this Chauvet box glass shaped glass. Then the dial is curved, the hands are curved. So they're extremely complex. But I think if you want to be credible, you need to be authentic. So you need to make a replica. Of course, then in the contemporary interpretation, you can maybe change certain elements, but you need to be authentic because this is something that belongs to the brand, that is credible and has a substance from the past and gives you the right base and I would say the credibility to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you target the right people? How do you, is Instagram a tool for you, or do you advertise in certain specific markets or for a certain specific audience? How do you get your watches to the right people?
Yeah, but I think like for e-com, we believe very much in the future that there's a combination of brick and mortar stores and e-com. And the same, I think, also for digital marketing. Yes, of course, we will continue to have physical events, but in a very different way. I think these fairs like we used to have in Basel, I think this is a style that is obsolete. I think we are now really going in a direction where we target novelties that have a certain message with a certain theme. And here it's exactly the same. It's also a combination of physical events and, of course, digital events that become more and more popular and that we use also more and more for the launching of our products, because you can, of course, have totally different possibilities online than in a physical event.
Yeah, yeah. And now that the Captain Cook and the Golden Horse are quite a success, can you see more heritage-inspired watches in the future for Rado? Is it a direction you want to explore more?
Yes, we have actually a lot of very interesting models that are based on those families, Captain Cook and Golden Horse, and we are really going to explore this in the future in two ways. First of all, yes, we will going to bring other pieces to the market already starting next year. And we are, of course, also experimenting in materials. So the Captain Cook, for example, and also the Golden Horse, we have brought it now in the first step in stainless steel.
Yeah.
Now the Captain Cook in a bronze version. And of course, later this year, we are going to launch a full ceramic version of the Captain Cook. And
Wow.
This is exactly the evolution that we think there's on one side, our expertise in material that we will use also for these watches. But yes, of course, those two families, they have other very strong vintage pieces that we are going to bring back in the future. Yes.
Yeah, and do you see, or will you see, that there's then an overlap of type of customers, people that bought the more classic ceramic Rados from the 90s and so on, that are now buying a Captain Cook or a Golden Horse? Or would you say these are two different pillars that you will keep building on?
Well, I think that the customer segmentation that we used to do in the past, gender, age, I think this is a bit obsolete. We are now really more and more talking about genderless watches, ageless watches, and we are more talking about, let's say, affinities and values and emotions. And this is, I think, what you need to be authentic in. This is where you need to really bring substance and credibility. And this is going then to differentiate the taste of a consumer, because we all know that nobody buys a watch anymore for just reading the time. It's a lot more, and in particular for men, because, we are very often restricted to a very straight dress code, so white shirt and the suit. So we have little possibilities to really express something on ourselves, and the watch, of course, is the perfect accessory to do that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So in 2020, at the end of this year, we will see something in ceramic, I guess, for the Captain Cook.
Exactly. Yes. It's going to be for the second half of the year, a big launch. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said, well, events like Basel World, SIHH, or Watches and Wonders, they are a bit obsolete, and we saw that Watches and Wonders were among the first to do something completely digital. For me personally, that didn't work that well because I felt a bit left out. I didn't feel involved because I couldn't see and try the watches and write articles based on the experience of wearing these watches and trying these watches. So everything I did now was based a bit on the press releases and stock images that we received. So for us, and I think I speak for more media colleagues, it was good to have everything so available and accessible, but we really missed the experience. And watches are a perfect example of something that is emotional, about emotion, and you need to feel and experience a watch. How do you think you can solve that if we are still in the situation that we are in today, where we can't travel that much and can't meet?
You're totally right. This is exactly the way that we are going with Rado in the future is a clear communication of, like I said, for e-com, brick and mortar stores and online e-com shopping, because yes, there are some practical issues to scroll whenever you want at any time. You can check out availabilities, make sure when you go to a store that the products you're interested they're available, then you try them on and then you take a decision. And exactly the same I would say also for presenting novelties. It's for me a combination of using now the very strong and fantastic digital media, but we need also physical events because the touch and feel, in particular for accessories that you wear on your skins, and in particular for a brand like Rado, because we have these noble ceramic materials and people have to find out that it's super light, not only scratch resistant, but super light. The temperature of the material adapts to the temperature of your skin. It's totally hypoallergenic. So it's a great way also to show them the superiority of this material. But yes, you're totally right. We need the combination of both of it. And we need also in the future physical events, but I think in a different way than we used to do them in the past.
Yeah. And is for you, in the past, we touched it a bit earlier. In the past, you had these watches that are very much brand driven, like a push strategy. We are this brand, and we create and design these watches that we think are good for the and right for the customer. And now you will see a bit that brands seem to have more sensors out there in the market to see what people want, to see what's hot in the world of watch collecting. And there, I think the heritage and vintage inspired watches are coming from. How do you see this direction? Is it something easy for you to adapt to, that you see what people are really after and adapt to it and create like the Captain Cook and the Golden Horse that are basically I guess driven by collectors and what enthusiasts really like?
But I think in Rado we had here in this point a big advantage over other brands, because from the beginning in 1957, Rado was late in the market. There were already 200 or 300 Swiss watch brands out there. So I think Rado took a very wise decision that they said, rather going into a competition about functions of watches or complications, they said, no, we concentrate on the second part of the watch, which is the housing. And when you speak housing, of course, you speak immediately about design and material. And there Rado really became the leading brand of bringing innovative designs and materials to the watch industry. And of course, when you speak design and materials, you have to be very close to the consumer in order to meet their tastes, but also to make sure that these products are not just fashion products and they are having a life cycle of 6 or 12 months, but they are timeless also. So this is, I think, where Rado already gained a huge experience in the past, and we are going to use this in our cooperation with a lot of different designers from different domains also in the future.
Yeah, very good. There's a lot of discussion currently among watch enthusiasts and collectors that they feel that some brands are doing too many like re-editions or things from the past. And I personally, I don't agree with that to a certain extent, because if you look at perhaps the top 10 or top 20 of watches out there in the market, you will see that I think almost all of them are iconic models.
Yes.
So I think it's a good direction also for Rado to have something that was there in the past, that has a true heritage and a true story to tell.
I think still a lot of people think that vintage watches are a trend, and this trend is going to disappear in a few months or a few years. I disagree with this. I think vintage watches, they give us such strong base, and this is what all the Swiss watch industry is about, that these watches will be iconic pillars for us for the coming years, because they're so much in line with the values that the whole Swiss watch industry is about. So I'm definitely convinced that we are going to have these vintage watches also for the coming years. But like I said at the beginning, in a combination with modern interpretation, either in terms of design or material that we are now able to master, which we were not probably able to do in the past. And this is, I think, the trend that we will see definitely for Rado in the coming years.
Oh, perfect. I'm looking forward to see the Captain Cook in ceramic, and can't wait to try it in the flesh. I would like to thank you for this interview, and hopefully talk soon again, and in different circumstances where we can actually meet instead of using these conference video calls.
Excellent. I'm also looking forward. Hopefully we get the chance to present this Captain Cook ceramic here. And thank you very much for the invitation, and stay safe. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.